Dontaesboxingnation, Dontaescookingnation. We are out here. Where are we at?
We're out here in Bangkok.
There you go. She's from Ireland. Matter of fact, introduce yourself to the world.
My name's Hannah and I'm from Ireland and I'm the biggest fan in Scotland.
You hear that?
Yeah.
The biggest fan?
And I'm from Ireland. Sorry.
No, I can edit it. Don't worry about it. All the way in Bangkok, Thailand, y'all.
No,
I'm gonna get
in
it right.
Ireland as well.
In Ireland, you hear that? DBN is international,
My
guys.
churros are ready now.
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? Boy, oh boy, this list just gets longer and longer by the day when it comes to the fighters that Canelo Alvarez and his team are making it very clear they don't want to fight. Or maybe I should say they're not going to fight. After Demetrius Andrade chased Canelo Alvarez for 6 years through 2 different weight classes, Canelo finally says he will never fight against Andrade because he's a, quote, horrible fighter. More recently, the boxing world has been putting a lot of pressure on Canelo Alvarez to take the David Benavidez fight. And as soon as this information got to Canelo, he said he's not fighting against David Benavidez. David Benavidez hasn't fought anyone. He hasn't done anything. Well, I guess that explains why Canelo fought Yildirim and now he wants to fight Makabu, right? We know what time it is. But speaking of Makabu, since Canelo was willing to go up and fight against a cruiserweight, the former undisputed cruiserweight champion, Oleksander Usyk, he said that he will come back down to cruiserweight and fight Canelo Alvarez. Now, once again, let me remind you guys, Canelo Alvarez is pursuing a fight with Makabu, who is a cruiserweight belt holder. He's the WBC champion. So what did Canelo's trainer say when it came to a possible fight with him and Usyk? They said, no way. He said that fight is not going to happen. Usyk is a heavyweight. And then he started saying, I would rather my heavyweight Frank Sanchez get in the ring with Usyk, but there's no way Canelo is going to be fighting against Usyk. Okay, so you heard Eddie Reynoso's excuse for why Canelo wasn't going to fight Usyk is because the man is a heavyweight, right? But I want you guys to hear what Eddie Reynoso said when he was explaining why they decided to pursue the Makabu fight. This is exactly what Eddie Reynoso said. Quote, I know what he has done to heavyweights that he has sparred with, and that is the reason why we have asked for this fight with Makabu. End quote. So you know what he did in sparring with heavyweights, but clearly you don't think it's good enough for Canelo Alvarez to beat the best cruiserweights in the division, right? Now, guys, this would be a complete different situation if Canelo was one of those special type of fighters. If he was really a pound-for-pound fighter who dominated all of the best fighters in whatever division he was in. He was always the best in every division he was in, right? When he was at 154, he cleaned the division out. The Charlo brothers, Andrade, Lara, moved up to 160, wiped the division out. Moved up to 168, cleaned it out. I'm talking about including David Benavidez, right? Then he decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cherry pick a title at the cruiserweight division. Then it would not look that bad because you have already dominated in so many other divisions where there was no doubt you were the best. So you move up and you fight the weakest cruiserweight, it doesn't look that bad. But the problem is Canelo Alvarez is always looking for the weakest link in every single division he campaigns at. And he finally found a division that had nothing but weak champions when he moved up to 168. And now that he's won all the belts at that weak division, where does he go from here? The saddest thing is Canelo has more options than any other fighter. He could make the fights that the fans really want to see. It's completely up to him, but he's not willing to do it. And this is why it makes no sense when I hear some of you Canelo Alvarez fans sitting over here saying, man, he can fight whoever he wants. I want to ask you guys this. How does a fighter fighting whoever he wants, meaning it doesn't matter if it's a cherry pick, if it's a super easy foregone conclusion, he can fight whoever he wants, how does that benefit you as a boxing fan? You see, what these fans are really telling you is, as long as it's a guaranteed win for Canelo Alvarez, that's all that matters. I don't care if it's a mismatch. I don't care if it's someone no one has even heard of. As long as it's going to be another W on Canelo's record, that's all that matters to me. They're telling you they're not boxing fans. These are race fans. And this is the reason why Terrence Crawford is pound for pound the best fighter in the world. Because while Canelo is going after McAboo, Crawford is going after Errol Spence. He's been going after him for quite some time now. And you would never hear me say Terrence Crawford can fight whoever he wants. You would never hear me say anything like that. Because Crawford is always going after the best. Mark my words. If this Canelo versus McAboo fight goes down, McAboo, he will not make it past 3 rounds. This will be one of Canelo Alvarez's easiest fights. Speaking of Canelo Alvarez's easiest fights, I did a poll and I asked you guys, would this McAboo fight be Canelo's easiest, one of his easiest, or one of his toughest fights? And there's your answer right there on the screen. This means Canelo, he's not fooling anyone. And neither are the Mexican fans that voted this would be Canelo's toughest fight. You see, I noticed that they will always do this in polls. And whenever I do a poll and it involves Canelo Alvarez, regardless what the correct answer is, they will always pick whatever favors Canelo. But the problem with doing that, especially in this poll right here, is you're going to be proven right or wrong. Because if this fight ends the same way the Rocky Fielding fight ended, the same way the Yildirim fight ended, then that proves that we were all right, that this is going to be one of Canelo's easiest fights, if not his easiest one. Speaking of that, this is why it sounds ridiculous when Canelo fans try to compare who Canelo is fighting to who Gervonta Tank Davis is fighting. I actually called this, guys, before it happened. I told you guys that I truly believe that Gervonta Tank Davis, he had the toughest opponent, but Devin Haney, he had the biggest name opponent out of the 3. And I also told you guys before it happened that Teofimo Lopez was either going to lose to George Kambosos or he was going to struggle really bad against him. My point is, Gervonta is the one that had the toughest fight. You can't include Teo because that was a cherry pick gone wrong. So if we're comparing the level of opposition when it comes to Canelo versus Gervonta Tank Davis, then that means that Canelo, he should be involved in a really, really tough fight, just like Gervonta was against Cruz. This is how the Canelo McAboo fight should look, right? It shouldn't look like the Rocky Fielding fight. It shouldn't look like the Yildirim fight, right? But it will look like that. Because unlike Isaac Cruz, McAboo, he has no chin, he has no defense, he has no technique, he has no speed. All he has is a belt. And it's so ironic because while Canelo Alvarez refuses to fight the best Mexican fighters and the best black fighters, Gervonta Tank Davis, a black American, he's facing all of the best Mexican competition in 3 different weight classes, right? So the question is, if Gervonta can fight all of the best Mexican fighters available, from ones at higher weight classes, undefeated, to former multiple champions, etc., how come Canelo Alvarez isn't willing to do the same? How come he won't go after all of the best black fighters? Listen, we already know this. Black versus anyone that's not black is one of the biggest rivalries. But black versus Mexico in particular, that is the biggest boxing rivalry and the numbers will back that up. This is the reason why Floyd Mayweather beat Mexicans on their own holidays constantly. And this is the reason why Gervonta Tank Davis is doing the same things today. Because at the end of the day, Mexicans aren't rooting for black fighters. So it would make no sense for the two hated guys to be the first to fight against each other. It would make more sense for a black guy to fight the guy that the majority of the racist fans will support. Just like 99% of the non-black population in America rooted against Floyd Mayweather when he fought Manny Pacquiao. Same thing when the American Andre Ward, when he fought against a racist Sergey Kovalev. Or when any black American fights against a Golovkin or a Canelo Alvarez. This is the reason why it makes no sense for two black fighters to be fighting against each other first. Now, when all the smoke is cleared and both of these black fighters have eliminated all of these other fighters, that's when it makes sense for those two black fighters to fight against each other. Like the Errol Spence Crawford situation. That's why it's time for that fight to happen now. Because there's no other fight that is bigger than that. Matter of fact, that's the biggest fight in boxing history right now. You guys have to remember the reason why we had Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns and Hagler is because they were the best there. There weren't any other guys around, so it wasn't like they were just selecting each other as opponents. They were the two best at the time when Sugar Ray Leonard, when he fought Hearns. Remember, before he fought Hearns, he had to avenge his loss to Roberto Duran when he made Duran quit. And let me tell you another reason why that comparison, Canelo to Gervonta Tank Davis, is such a flawed comparison. Because no one is calling Gervonta Tank Davis pound for pound the best fighter in the world. You've never even heard me mention his name on a pound for pound list, certainly not the top 5. I mean, that's like comparing Canelo Alvarez to Jaron Ennis. If you want an equal comparison, you compare Canelo Alvarez to Terrence Crawford, the pound for pound best fighter in the world. And what is Terrence Crawford always attempting to do? The complete opposite of what Canelo is always trying to do. Crawford is always going after the best competition. He's always chasing them. He is the most avoided. That additional background music you guys are hearing, that's from my daughter playing in the background. But anyway, listen, we already know if Crawford was in Canelo's shoes right now, we all know Crawford would have fought David Benavidez a long time ago. We know this. We know that Crawford would have fought Andrade and Charlo. We know that he would have fought them all. Because soon as Crawford came to welterweight, he wanted to fight the boogeyman Errol Spence. Guys, Terrence Crawford was in the exact same situation that Canelo Alvarez was in when Jamal Charlo was Canelo's mandatory. Canelo decided to vacate his belt, surrender his belt, give it to Charlo. And what did Crawford do? Crawford, who had Porter as his mandatory, and remember guys, before Crawford decided to fight Porter, everyone said he was ducking Porter. Everyone said he was ducking Porter. Crawford didn't give up his belt, right? He took the fight and he stopped Sean Porter. That's the difference from a Canelo Alvarez and a Terrence Crawford. Crawford has never vacated his belt. Certainly not for a tough contender. Now understand this, guys. There's only one condition where it makes sense to vacate your belt. That's if your mandatory is a complete tomato can. Some guy who, we don't know how he got there. He has like 3 or 4 losses and he's your mandatory, right? And you have an option to either fight him or you could take this big dangerous fight that everyone wants to see you involved in. So you say, forget it. I'm going to vacate that belt and I'm going to take the super fight. That's happened before in the past. But see, what Canelo does is Canelo, he will vacate his belt to avoid the dangerous super fight and then fight a no-name like Rocky Fielding, a soft touch who had just came off of a knockout loss. I keep hearing Mexican fans say, man, he can fight whoever he wants, man. He fought Trout, he fought Mayweather, he fought Golovkin, etc., right? Those are things you say when a fighter is retired, not when he's in his prime and everyone else is trying to fight the best. Like, once again, Terrence Crawford wanting to fight Errol Spence. Like everyone at light heavyweight wanting to fight against each other, right? Gilberto Ramirez, he wants Bivol. Bivol, he wants Beterbiev. Beterbiev wants Canelo. He wants the rest of them, right? Anthony Yard, he's about to fight Joe Smith. Everyone is fighting the best. If Canelo Alvarez does not get in the ring and beat a Bivol, a Beterbiev, a Joe Smith, an Andrade, Charlo, Benavidez, Gilberto Ramirez, even a David Morrell. Not right now, but trust me, in another year, David Morrell is going to be a major player at 168. And Jamal Charlo. If Canelo Alvarez doesn't get in the ring with one of these guys and beat them without controversy, his entire career is going to look like a joke. Because all of those fights that you guys like to mention, all of those names, when you say, oh man, he fought Shane Mosley, he fought Golovkin, Lara, Mayweather, the majority of those fights he lost. Everyone believes he lost to Lara and Gennady Golovkin. So you can't even include those wins when it comes to his best wins of his career. You would have to dummy it down a little bit, and you would have to look at wins like the Caleb Smith fight or the Plant fight, right? Then those becomes like his biggest wins. Every single time Canelo Alvarez stepped up in competition, he dropped the ball. He has never beat a top-level opponent that put him in a 50-50 fight. He's never won a fight like that without controversy. If you fans want him to be like Mayweather so much, since you guys always say he's just trying to be like Mayweather, well, he better get some of those type of Mayweather wins. He better get some of those big wins where Mayweather was fighting against strong, hard punchers that were 15, 20 pounds bigger than him, and he was beating them without controversy. He beat Manny Pacquiao when Pacquiao was considered number 2. Pound for pound, the best fighter in the world. He beat him with no controversy. That's the same pound for pound list that you guys put Canelo Alvarez on today. Canelo Alvarez lost to an old-ass Floyd Mayweather that was way smaller than him. 15 to 20 pounds smaller than him. Completely beat the brakes off of Canelo Alvarez. Stood in the center of the ring with the much bigger, younger, stronger Canelo, even managed to back him up at times in the fight. Boy, I know that hurts your feelings hearing that truth, don't it? Canelo Alvarez fans, y'all pissed off hearing this right now, huh? Man, I can't stand this pinchy Mayate Dante. He's always telling the damn truth. You got that right. And you're going to keep getting the whole truth. That's why you keep coming back. So back to my point, when is Canelo going to do the same things Floyd Mayweather did? When is he going to go and fight those much bigger, stronger, younger, undefeated champions like Floyd did when he beat Canelo Alvarez? In order to do that, Canelo Alvarez, honestly, he would not only have to go up to light heavyweight and fight the best, but he would have to go up to cruiserweight and fight the best. Why? Because once again, Floyd Mayweather moved up 5 different weight classes. And when he was at 147, he was always at a size disadvantage with everyone he faced. 80% of Floyd Mayweather's opponents outweighed him by at least 15 pounds. Canelo Alvarez has been fighting guys who have been around his same size, and most of them have no power. Almost everyone that Floyd Mayweather fought had extreme power. From Maidana to Canelo, to Pacquiao, to Cotto. When Canelo fought Cotto, he outweighed him damn near by 30 pounds. The last time Canelo fought somebody with real power was Gennady Golovkin. When he fought Kovalev, Kovalev wasn't even throwing punches with power, even though he had power. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Let's see who Canelo adds to his list, his long list of fighters that he says he's not going to fight. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Just wanna say Happy New Year to everybody. I'm on to the next one. Let me tell you guys about this company, NWA Cane Corsos. They breed Cane Corso Mastiffs, which is a guardian dog that is treasured for its protective nature and strong loyalty to family. If you're looking for a family-friendly dog that's intelligent, muscular, and brave enough to take on any intruder, then you need a Cane Corso Mastiff. Cane Corsos are extremely versatile, performing well in a variety of activities such as hunting, agility, competitions, and obedience trials. With its athleticism and versatility as a hunting dog, guard dog, sports dog, and a show dog, the Cane Corso Mastiff is perfect for any family. They also have standard French bulldogs with excellent health, structure, temperament, and superior bloodlines with many champions in present day and pedigrees. Visit NWA Cane Corsos on all social media platforms to find the perfect puppy for your home today. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man ScalpCarolinas on Instagram. Contact them at 704-499-3471 and make sure you follow them on Instagram. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo de Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodekey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.